Hi, it's Lipstick Gal. Thank you so much for watching today. I'm trying some new foundation. We're doing a little latte makeup, which is funny because to me it's just like soft neutrals. But okay, we'll call it something new because apparently that's what all the cool kids are doing. And I am excited. I need to get my face on. I'm feeling a little tight. I'm going to start with something I haven't used in forever. This is the Professional Hydrate Primer. I found this. I was like going through my stash, like, how long have I had this? Do I want to know? But I'm going to put some of this on. I don't know that maybe priming is a good idea for me, but I'm doing it anyway. The reason I say that is because I normally don't wear primer on my face. I should, I just don't. And I want to see what this new foundation is like. And part of me is like, do what you always do. And the other part of me is like, give it its best chance. So for that reason, we're priming. While I was at Ulta, I also picked up an oldie but a goldie. I haven't used the NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer in forever. So I'm cracking into this today. I'm cracking into the new Smashbox today. And I think it's funny how for me, it was like, I remember liking it, but did I love it? And I have the NARS like Soft Matte Complete Concealer and I use it. Mine's really old. I should probably get rid of it. But I was like, I remember it being good. And I've started to like Radiant concealers. Like when this first came out, it was too dewy for me. And now that's all I want. So I'm going to start with a little bit of my Beauty Pie. Ooh, what's in here? Nothing. Okay, I thought it was cat hair. And I was like, ah! I'm going to start by dabbing on some under eye corrector. This is a Super Luminous Under Eye Genius from Beauty Pie. This is my favorite. So I've been watching the Beautiful and Bothered podcast, which with Johnny Ross and Kevin, oh, I'm forgetting his name. And that's terrible because I love them both. They are, first of all, hilarious. Second of all, really so knowledgeable. Really, really knowledgeable. And they mentioned, since they are both pro makeup artists and they have clients, they, special occasions as well as like events, like weddings and stuff. So they're doing makeup on women my age or older. And they were talking about how best to achieve like correction for dark circles and stuff. And I was like leaning in, listening, like, okay, tell me more. I want to hear all about it. I didn't think about this, but to take a corrector and put it just where you need it to kind of lightly counterbalance the color. I feel like it's already looking better. I don't want too thick of a layer. And then I'm going to lightly set it with powder. Now I tried this once before, but I was using a different concealer over top and it was not the best texturally. Both of these gentlemen, I'm just going to say, I don't know for sure. They look like they're in their late 20s, early 30s. So they're not dealing with the same sort of under eye texture that I'm dealing with, but if they've been working on a multitude of clients, they know what they're talking about. So I'm going to grab a really super lightweight powder. I'm taking the under eye setting powder from Pat McGrath. This is the Skin Fetish Sublime Perfection under eye setting powder. I'm cracking into my brand new one and a clean brush, and I'm just going to pick up the smallest amount. Well, before I do that, make sure that I don't have any of this already settling in my crinkles, because it is kind of a hydrating concealer, primer I should say, and I'm just going to lightly kind of tap this over. I don't want to like build up a really thick layer of powder, but I just want to get it to the point where what I put over the top isn't going to mess with it. I'm excited to try this. This is the new Smashbox Always On Skin Balancing Foundation with hyaluronic acid and adaptogens. Okay, I remember doing a Will I Buy It, and I was really curious because it was saying all the right things. And then I watched Tati use it and she was like raving about it. And I was like, oh, Tati's younger than I am, but she's in her 40s at least. And I was like, I have to know. I have to know. Let me read you what the box says. Achieve skin life balance. Need more hydration or oil control? This primer infused foundation helps balance skin while delivering buildable radiant coverage with 16-hour wear. Okay, buildable, radiant, 16-hour wear. It's infused with hyaluronic acid and adaptogens, medium to full coverage with a radiant finish. Complexion looks natural and even. Transfer, fade, and crease resistant. Okay, so if you're not going to transfer, and you're not going to fade, and you're not going to crease, and you're going to be radiant and last for 16 hours and be buildable, doesn't it sound like magic in a bottle? All right, we're not done yet. It won't cake, flake, or streak. Well, if my foundation's flaky, we have a different problem. And it's dermatologist tested, so you need to shake it. Okay, so this is supposed to do all the things that somebody with my skin concerns is gonna want. I don't want it settling into like my giant creases here or like right in through here. I don't want it kind of collecting in the crease of my nose. I will leave a comment in the description bar as to how this works. But I haven't used it yet. I'm really curious. This is the shade F20N. Looks like this. Okay, this is the second lightest neutral shade. I finally have convinced myself to quit buying the lightest because every time I buy the lightest foundation or concealer, I look like a crazy person. I feel like this might still be too dark, but we'll blend it and we'll see. I'm just gonna throw some on this side of my face. I almost feel like I need to start spreading it out to get the coverage that I want. And then I didn't want the sponge to soak up the bulk of it. It feels a little less fluidy, a little thicker than some other products that I have. I feel like some of the other foundations, like the True Match, is a little bit more liquid, a little bit serumy. Okay, I completely missed putting any like right in here where my hair is covering my face. I do that so much, it's bad. When I was first starting to wear makeup at 14 in the late 80s, there was never a shade of foundation light enough for me. At the drugstore, at the counter, Clinique, Lancome, Estee Lauder, like nobody had one light enough for me. And so I got into the habit a long time ago of not using foundation, just using concealer where I needed it, and then putting powder over the top. And that worked for me because concealer shades went a little bit lighter, but even some of the concealer shades, it was a little bit of a struggle. And so when they started finally making foundation shades that were light enough for me in like the late 90s, early 2000s, and I started wearing foundation, I was so in love, but I was always the lightest shade. And now that brands are starting to expand their shade range on both ends, I'm still defaulting, I'll take the lightest, I'll take the lightest. The last couple times I've done that, I end up looking like Casper the Ghost. It's not a good look. So this time I was like, go in store, don't just choose the lightest neutral shade, go in store and shade match yourself. And oddly enough, I was the second lightest neutral shade, but I feel like this is pretty. I feel like you can definitely see there is some, you know, the shade match is good. I don't feel like it's really drastic from here to here because I don't have it any lower than my jawline. I don't feel like it's covering all of my sins. Like you can still see some hyperpigmentation, a little bit of redness, but let's put another layer on. All right, I feel like a second layer really made a difference. I'm seeing less of the freckling through here. Let's not pay attention to my under eyes because we haven't gotten there yet. But I feel like the rest of my skin looks pretty good. I feel like this dries just a little bit faster than a lot of other products that I'm used to. And I'm curious to see how this applies with a brush. Let's see what happens. Ooh, I feel like there's more, maybe there's more pigment because the sponge isn't like sucking it up. I feel like I would probably need less foundation. I can't believe it. It might have been, again, the sponge sucking it up. There are 2 pumps on this side. I normally don't do 2 pumps of anything, much less, you know, a medium buildable foundation. Okay, 1 layer. I feel like I definitely got more coverage with a brush, but do you see how I have like a little bit of my melasma poking through right here? I wonder if just like a tiny little dab of foundation, and do I want to pat it in with my finger or a brush? I don't know. I feel like I needed not so much a second layer, but just in areas like with this hyperpigmentation spot and this melasma spot. I didn't completely get rid of this. I feel like this is definitely significantly reduced. I still do have this spot over here, but I think overall my face looks pretty good. It doesn't look like it's sitting on my skin. I don't see it instantly settling into like my expression lines. I've got a pretty thick one here. The ones in my forehead, I don't quite have 11s, I have like an offset 1. And right here in my crow's feet, it looks pretty good. Brand new tube of concealer. And I'm not really gonna do a lot. I'm gonna add just a little bit here, here. I might see if I can completely get rid of this guy and this guy. We'll see. I'm going to take a clean BK 506 brush, the Angie Hot and Flashy concealer brush, which I love. Well, that's pretty good. And I'm just going to hit a couple of spots here. I always like to start by distributing this. I feel like if I go straight in with the brush, the brush either will soak it up in one area and then I'll have like little small circular stamps of color as I move the brush around. So I'm gonna distribute it a little bit, but I'll finish buffing it in with this concealer brush. Got my fingers crossed. And I don't remember whether this concealer is one of those that dries quickly, and I should have done one eye at a time. I don't remember. All right, Kevin and Johnny, I believe you. I think it looks pretty good. I feel like this is a good concealer because it's a radiant concealer. I don't feel like slightly setting the corrector with powder did anything but make sure that it didn't move. Sometimes I have the problem because I use an emollient under eye corrector and then a radiant under eye concealer that it's just kind of moving around, and then I'm losing coverage where I need it the most, which is right here in the tear trough and in the inner corner. And I feel like that little, like, hey, add a little layer of powder, the lightest whisper layer of powder over a really thin layer of corrector. I feel like it's made a difference. I've been struggling with my under eyes in the last, well, I always have, but I feel like especially in the last like 6 to 8 months, I've noticed a marketed difference in what my under eyes look like, and it's not been for the good. And I haven't really changed any skincare. I just think it's aging, which is fine. I love the fact that I'm getting older because the alternative is terrible. But I'll tell you, I feel like this kind of gets my under eyes to a point where I don't notice like instantly, like I've got all of this darkness or it looks weird. And I do feel like I'm losing volume in this area as well. But so far, that hack and this new foundation, I'm feeling pretty good. All right, let me powder my face, put on my eyebrows, and we'll come back for some color and do a little latte look. Let's start putting on some color on this face. I'm feeling very beige, very blasé. I'm starting out with the bronzing brick from Victoria Beckham. I have the lightest one in 01, and I'm gonna use that darker contour shade just to build a little bit of dimension because I'm feeling very flat right now. I think it's funny that, you know, we're calling a neutral, no makeup makeup look a latte look. That's okay. Call it whatever you want. I've been doing this look since I was in high school. I found a long time ago that neutral shades, especially kind of natural brownish shades, look really good on me. And I kind of leaned into it. The only thing I would do is I normally would pair a look like this with a bright bold lip, but we'll go full latte today and we'll go a really neutral lip and we'll kind of keep it looking soft. What trends have you been seeing that you're like, no, it's for the kids? That's kind of how I feel. You know, I'm in my late 40s and I'm always thinking, oh, all the kids on TikTok, and I don't do TikTok. And I know that when I'm watching a YouTube short or an Instagram reel or whatever, it's probably like a TikTok or something. But the truth is, and I know I'm being stupid and stubborn, I'm just holding out. And I'm like, it's not for me. Now that I feel like my face has some dimension to it, I'm going to use a ginormous brush. Look at this brush. This is the BK Beauty 105. Now, I bought this brush. Like, I got the foundation because I saw Tati's rave review, and I got this brush because it's the only one that Khaki uses. And I feel like I've been very heavily influenced recently by influencers, and I was like, okay. So she loves using this for bronzer, and I'm like, I'm used to using something that's a little bit, you know, like, yeah, it's a big brush, but the ferrule is pinched in, so it lays like this. And this is like, let me put my mirror down. They're very different. They're both big and fluffy, but when you look at them head on, like, this one is just like enormous, but we're gonna do it. At this point, instead of going into that contour shade, I'm hitting the lighter end of this. I'm gonna knock off any excess and we're just gonna stamp it on. Boy, nothing could be easier than like stamp, 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 stamp. These BK brushes are so soft. Okay, so I started out, my first BK brush was the Angie Hot and Flashy 506, the one I was using for concealer earlier, which I love. Boy, this is stupid easy. I don't know if placement is good, but I'm having a good time. And then I picked up one of their little tiny liner brushes, which was also amazing. And I've used it both for like detail work in the eyebrows, but mostly for liner. And then when they were having their anniversary sale, I'm like, you know, I want to try a few more brushes. So I got this one. Oh, I forgot this is the other one that I got. This is their 110 brush, which is kind of like their concealer brush. Like you can use it for blending concealer, but I think it's also for placing powder over concealer. But I think I already had something in here and it's not clean. This I hadn't used for anything yet. And I was like, bronzer, like khaki. Okay. Looking good. I'm gonna add just a little bit of warmth. I'm gonna take a warm neutral leaning blush. This one is from, it's a little peachy, is from M Cosmetics. This is the Heaven's Glow in Baroque. This is gonna give a little bit of glow as well as a little bit of color. But the idea is not to go too much. Really soft and natural. Let's put something on the eyes. For that, Love's Journey. Last time I used this, I was having a bad day. I will link the video for you here as well as the description bar down below, but I used the cool tones, I didn't use the warm tones, and this time I'm like, latte. All right, so this is the light version from Sydney Grace. I think I'm gonna hit this like this, maybe one of the shimmers. It's gonna be super easy. I'm not sure if the trend is kind of glowy latte makeup, like really glistening, glowy, kind of glazed or dolphin skin, like that whole super shiny. I'm not doing that today because it's gonna be hot. It's gonna be in the high 90s and I don't want to melt. So I have my face fully powdered using powder products. But we'll give it a setting spray mist and kind of maybe see if we can bring a little bit of life back to this face. I think I'm gonna dip into a little bit of this shade right here. This is Mad Love. It's a warmer, darker matte. Well, darker for my skin tone. I want just a little bit of depth out here, but I don't want it to look too done. I want it really to look like nearly nothing. All right. I'm gonna take this shade here in Everlasting Love. Am I even gonna skip like putting a shimmer on the lid today? Who am I? I don't know. I think I might be. I might just go all mattes. I'm gonna take just the smallest amount of this. This is the shade Kisses. I just want a little light in the inner corner. I don't want it to look too blingy. Just, I think that might be perfect. Where it doesn't look sparkly, it just looks like there's a little bit of light there. And I don't know who I am because I'm not really putting anything underneath my eyes. I usually do a little bit of that. I don't think I'm going to today. I'm gonna use the Sephora 24-Hour Colorful Crayon in Cocoa to line my eyes with. Too lazy to sharpen. Do you ever get to that point where you're like, this would be better if I sharpened it? I can't be bothered. I'm gonna take this teeny tiny BK208 and I'm gonna dip it into the darkest shade in here. This is Fools in Love. And because this is such a small angled brush, I'm gonna see if I can actually like really shove it into my lash line and blank out some of those little teeny tiny skin tone gaps that I have without really getting the liner any closer, because I really don't want to sharpen that pencil. Look how lazy I'm being today. Okay, I'm really loving this super dainty eyeliner look. I'm gonna curl my lashes and throw on some mascara. All right, all I need now is a lip, and I'm gonna put on one of the Luxuriously Lucents from Lisa. It's her 90s brown shade called Meet Me in Berlin. I don't want this to go on too heavy. Okay, after taking a minute to fluff my hair, I'm kind of loving this. I feel like the foundation match is actually pretty good. I don't feel like there's a lot of difference. I don't have any foundation here. And I feel like my face is just a little bit darker than my neck. And I also have a little bit of red, like the smallest amount of redness. Not as red as I used to be when I was younger, but I feel like I'm always trying to get this to look like this. And I feel like we're at a pretty good place with the shade match. It's actually quite nice. Oh, I see I have some sunscreen catching in my neck folds. Oh, getting old. Better than the alternative. I did some things I normally don't do. I normally bring eyeshadow beneath my lower lash line as well as mascara. There's no makeup down there. The only thing that's down there is concealer, corrector, and powder. I was like, whoa, okay. And I think it's really nice and it kind of gives kind of like a lifted look. I like that. I also like that I'm using mostly mattes and I have just the smallest amount of shimmer in the inner corner. I think it looks really, really pretty. And I also like that I'm not wearing any highlight today, just that glowy blush that has just a little bit of pearl mixed in, and it's really soft and really kind of like, yeah, just a little bit. I like the way that it looks. The one thing I'm like, okay, anytime I wear a look like this, I usually pair it with bold lips. So I'm just gonna lean into like this shade of lipstick, which I love. Is one of my favorite Luxuriously Lucents, but it feels like it needs a pop. But that's just me, and my default is neutral eyes and cheeks, pop on the lips. But I'm gonna lean into the Latte Makeup for today. We're all excited about the new trend, but haven't we been doing this for forever? Let me know, do you normally do this? It's like this kind of soft neutral, just barely, is this what you normally go to? And now like the TikTok kids have grabbed onto it. Let's do some latte makeup. I think it's cute, a little bit funny, but this is not a new look for me at all, at all. I'm kind of impressed with this. I feel like it's working really well, especially in my trouble area, which is the forehead. I will have to leave you wear notes in the description box as to how it wore all day. I will tell you that I do feel like even on the side where I used a sponge and on the side where I used a brush, I can see some of the texture. Like, I feel like it's catching, and I don't know if it's because I need to exfoliate or whether it's sitting in an interesting way, like right here on my face. Maybe it's the primer, I don't know. The other thing that I've noticed is that it looks pretty good on this side where I was using the sponge, but on this side, I feel like it's kind of grabbing like in a couple of places and it doesn't look its best. It looks a little bit dry over here. And this is a formula that's supposed to be good for if you need to keep oils at bay or if you need more hydration. It's supposed to kind of be like all things to all people. So I will definitely let you know when I do a check back, like a full-on review of this. But for this first impressions, I think it looks good. I'm glad I got the right color, not the lighter shade. And I feel like overall it looks really pretty. There are a couple of question marks for me that I will have to iron out as I continue to try this product before I come back with a full-on review. But let me know, have you been interested in this? Have you been doing latte makeup forever but calling it something else? Let me know in the comment section. Thanks for watching. Have an incredible day. And I will see you again soon.